It's your friendly neighborhood laser lady. Not too long ago, I made this video about my top 5 selling products, one of which was my shadow boxes. And of course, everyone is wondering how I make these and how you can replicate them. Today, I'm going to go over a few steps we can do with Inkscape to make your own designs, as well as where I like to source a lot of the designs to just make it easier on everybody. So let's dive into it. After we open Inkscape, let's get some toolbars ready. Go up to Object and down to Fill and Stroke. That will pop up on the right-hand side. Next, go to Object and down to Align and Distribute. We'll be using those a lot later. Let's start with a basic square. If you hold the Control key while you're dragging it out, it should remain a perfect square. There are a lot of prefabricated shadow boxes out there. I'll have a link to the ones I have, but you can also find them online and in various different sizes. The ones I'm using is just over 4 inches across. We can then alter the square to these dimensions in the boxes in the upper right hand. There is a lock icon, and when locked, it will alter all the dimensions together, both the width and the height. To change the colors of anything we make going forward, we can either do that in the Fill and Stroke window on the right-hand side or the color bars on the bottom. If you use the color bar on the bottom, hold down the Shift button and click a color to just change the outline color. Now let's use the star tool to draw out a star. There are options in the upper left corner to alter the look of the star, or if you double click it, there will be some nodes you can play around with also. I'm going to scale this down slightly inside of my square. If you're having a problem with it snapping to other objects, find the magnet in the upper right hand corner. You can toggle that on or off, and it might help later on in our designing. Using the Align tool in the right hand bar, we can then select both the square and the star and align the star perfectly within that square. I then Control D to duplicate it, which is a lot like copy and paste, except it will copy it right on top of itself. Now let's move that aside. Select the original star and square and go up to Path and down to Difference. Fill it in with color by selecting one of the colors in that bottom color bar. Let's set that one aside for now. Working with the duplicate, I want to scale down the star, but I want it to be perfect. One way we can do that is by selecting the star, duplicating it with holding Control and pressing D, and changing the color of the new star so we can tell them apart. Go up to Path and then down to Inset. Looks like one of the corners is rounded for some reason, and we don't want that. So let's delete this and then go up to Path and down to Path Effects, and that's going to pull up a new bar on the right hand side. Click the down arrow and we can now see an option for offset. So let's make a perfect offset. There are different join functions, and the one we want is miter. You can change the units if you need to, but I'm just going to click the negative button to make the offset on the inside of the object, which is also a duplicate of that original star. Now all the corners are exactly what we want. Delete the outside star, and now we're going to do the same as before by selecting the square and the star, going up to Path and down to Difference. And now we can fill that one in with a different color. This will come in handy later. Essentially, we're going to do that entire process one more time, and it's super convenient now that we have the ability to make this new offset the exact same percentage as the last one with that side panel. Now let's work on the fourth layer. For this last duplicated layer, let's do something a little different. First, draw out a square. It doesn't matter the size, so long as it's a perfect square, and make a duplicate of it with the Control D or Control Paste if you're used to that. And with the duplicated double, click it and there will be a circle node in one of the corners. Select that and drag it down to make a circle. Making sure the magnet tool is clicked on, align the top corner of the square with a middle node of the circle. Have them both selected and go up to Path and down to Union, and then click it until the corner arrows turn into a curved arrow. Holding the Control key, pivot that to the side until it looks a bit like this. Make a duplicate, select the duplicate, and use this button up here to mirror it over to the other side. Align the two most bottom points to make this heart shape. Now again, up to Path and down to Union. We've got ourselves a heart. Double click the heart to alter any of the nodes if you want it to be more curvy or swervy, however you like it. I'm going to shrink this down and align it to the middle of that star. Once it's in a good spot, I delete that star, and of course again, we select all of that and go up to path and down to difference. I need to get them in the right order. So right click any one of them and go to layers and objects. This will pop up yet another display on the right sidebar. You can rearrange those to be in the right order. Now we can align them on top of each other, and it looks pretty simple of a design, but it is adorable. And essentially these are all the steps you're going to need to know to make any other sort of nature scene or shapes or space or whatever you're into in Inkscape. To finish them up for the laser, go to the fill and stroke bar and make sure everything is the color line you need for your laser as well as the line width. Now let's download a file and alter it to be perfect for our shadow boxes. Creative Fabrica is a great resource that you can pay a subscription for to get oodles of laser downloads, and it's where I like to get my shadow box files. I'm not sponsored by them. I do have an affiliate link for you though if you want to check it out. These shadow box files are typically made for paper, but we can alter them to be a laser cut shadow box. Let's take this very adorable capybara shadow box design as an example. I download that and upload the SVG into Inkscape, then separate the layers and decide which ones I'm going to keep and which ones I'm going to get rid of. I like to keep it around 4 or 5 layers max. Otherwise, they start getting real heavy and more expensive to produce. These 2 layers I think could be just 1 layer. I want those little leaf shapes in the bottom corners to be on this other more detailed panel. To do that, I select the first panel, go up to path and down to break apart. Don't worry that it got all colored in. The big red X in the white box in the bottom corner will make all the color go away, and then hold the select button and click a different color so you see the lines we're working with. I deleted the innermost shape, we're not going to need that. Use the outside square to perfectly align these leaf shapes on top of the other one, and then delete that outside square. So this works out right, I'm going to select all those little leaf shapes, then go up to path and down to union, and that's going to make them 1 layer. Then selecting both the little leaves and the panel we want to cut them out of, go up to path and down to difference, and that'll cut them out. Now I can get this ready for the laser and laser it out. For the capybaras, I'm going to be using wood and staining those. For the other designs, I'm going to be using a mix of exotic acrylics as well as mirrored acrylics, one of my favorites. I'll have links for where I source a lot of these acrylics down below. The first thing we're going to do is sand them down a little bit. It's an easy step and it adds a lot. Using any regular old paint of any color you like, paint up the boxes. I'm going to stain this last one for the capybaras since it's got all the wood panels. And while that's drying, let's stain up those panels. One fun little cheat that I like to do is use markers to color them in instead of investing in a bunch of different kinds of dyes. Once all that's colored in and stained and dried, it's time to start gluing things in. This is where the magic happens. For the Tree of Life design, I'm going to be using this Gorilla Contact adhesive glue. And if you don't like having your hands as dirty as mine get, you might want to be wearing gloves during this whole process. For the mirror acrylics especially, I'll just pull up a corner and then glue it in. Then I'll lift up that corner of contact paper so I don't get fingerprints all over everything. It's just a matter of gluing in the rest of the layers and then watch the magic unfold before your very eyes. The hexagon moth design is exactly the same. All these mirror acrylics are very impressive to customers. Most people think it's glass, and I think it really adds to the value. Should you only have a diode laser, you can still make some pretty amazing shadow boxes. For this capybara guy, I'm going to weather the panels just a little bit. It's a look that I happen to like. I glue all these in with some Gorilla Wood glue. It works great and it dries fast. Once I get just one panel in, however, I'm going to paint in some stars in the background. I think it just adds a little nighttime mystery to it. Once that is all glued in, I do give my wood pieces a quick clear coat with just some Rust-Oleum clear coat spray. It's cheap and it looks great. Now that these are all dry and ready to go, there's only one more step, and that is putting on my little brand name wood veneer stickers. It's just a fun little touch and comes off super professional. And there you have it. It's literally that easy to make shadow boxes. I sell these between $35 to $40 a piece, and people love them. I hope you can find some success with these shadow boxes as well. If you'd like to learn even more about making laser files with Inkscape, I've got an entire playlist right here. Thank you so much for watching and happy crafting!